many never been through this? Have all been through this
I think
before?
we've all been
We've all been
through
through it
it.
at least once.
Okay, all right, so we can kind of go through this. You know, the purpose of the training is to eliminate the potential for occupational exposure to bloodborne or other infectious materials. Okay, so the reason we do this annually is because OSHA and risk management requires annually for those we determine to be high risk. Okay. Last I checked, y'all are still not using plastic knives to work with, so I would consider you, anytime you put knives in hands of students, high risk. Okay, so therefore you have to go through this annually. Okay. What we like to cover is how they're transmitted. I think we all know that from human to human, through bloodborne particles, what type of preventive measures that are out there, procedures if exposed, anything site-specific to culinary, and then look at training to employees' background. Okay, that's important because that's why I can come here and I can go through this because of your background. This is not new to you. This is something you work with, all the time. All right. You do know that bloodborne pathogens, we call it BBP for short, are pathogenic microorganisms that are present in human blood. Okay, and can cause disease in humans. Some of those, but not limited to, hepatitis B virus, HIV. These are a couple of the areas that are more commonly known that we try to watch out for. Nowadays, more Hep B than anything. The way that pathogen is going to spread is through bodily fluids. It's not going to jump out in the air and attack anybody and anything like that. Okay, it can be transmitted through bodily fluids. So how does it enter into your bloodstream? Okay, that's what we got to protect. All right. First off, largest organ in our body is what? Skin. Skin has openings, has hair follicles, have cuts, have openings for our eye, nose, mouth, right? A lot of ways for that to enter. So we have to be prepared and protect against that. Some of the facts that we look at, if we look at HIV, immune deficiency syndrome, or AIDS, okay, it can be life-threatening. Nowadays, though, there's a lot of medication, a lot of treatments that years back they didn't have. That's great news in that area. The problem with HIV is it's also, besides transmitted through blood, can be transmitted through sexual activity and things of that nature. So again, looking at HIV in a whole, not necessarily just bloodborne, but in a whole. Okay, a lot of facts. Many people may have HIV with no symptoms at all. Okay, they may develop some flu-like symptoms. It may take many, many years to develop into actual AIDS. Okay, and so what that means is that we don't know who next to you or anywhere around that could be potentially infectious, right? So we universally treat everybody the same. All right? Hep B is an infection of the liver, all right? And this is caused by a virus, okay? It can be transmitted by contaminated blood or blood derivatives from transfusions, sexual contact with an infected person, or the use of contaminated needles and instruments. Right? The disease has a long incubation period, 30 to 180 days, and symptoms that may become severe or chronic, causing some serious damage to our liver. Symptoms include fatigue, nausea, abdominal pain, low-grade fever, joint pain, loss of appetite, etc. Okay? We got several problems here right now. One, long incubation, 30 to 180 days, which means if a person was infected with Hep B, that virus can live a long life because it takes that long sometimes before you'd even see it. So what happens today, you might not realize till 180 days later. Okay. I can tell you another thing that just falls in with this. I just listed a bunch of symptoms. Didn't I just list the same symptoms associated with COVID Delta? Mm-hmm. Okay, and I bring that up because we got to be very careful. You cannot assume one or the other. You test negative for COVID, okay? You better continue on, get checked if there's something else, right? So you can just add that on a little extra facts for today. Some facts on B, most people aren't aware of it, okay? CDC, approximately 1.2 million Americans have Hep B. Okay, 1.2 million. Every year, about 3,000 people in the United States and more than 600,000 worldwide die from Hep B related liver disease. So, we focus right now on present on what's hand, but we cannot lose the focus on what's also out there that we can protect in our industry and in our classrooms from other infectious diseases which could result in death, right? There's another hepatitis out there, Hep C. Okay, it's an infection of the liver caused by a virus. There's no vaccine really for Hep C. Now there's some things out there that give shots. There's really not a vaccine on Hep C. Okay. It's transmitted primarily by intravenous drug use, unclean tattoos, body piercing, sharing contaminated toothbrushes, razors, and other personal items can cause a person to become infected with Hep C. Okay. So keep that. The best way to protect against that, avoid those situations. Then there's other potential infectious materials that's out there. Okay, semen, vaginal secretions, cerebrospinal fluid, synovial fluid, pleural fluids, amniotic fluid, saliva and dental procedures. So there are many other material or things out there that could be potentially infectious that could cause you to have serious health conditions. Okay? But, we always put a little note in there, urine, feces, sweat, tears. We do not consider that a risk for bloodborne pathogens unless there's visible blood in that material. I'll give you a quick story. University police called me one time and said, "We got a cleanup. Can you send somebody out here? It's pretty bad." So I don't know what I'm going up against. University police, did somebody get stabbed? Did somebody get shot? Yeah, I don't know, right? They get over there and there's vomit. Excuse me. Just call it like it is. There's vomit all over the floor and it is red. This is Friday morning. What did students do on Thursday night?
Slow gin.
They drank slow gin, and this person was just coming in throwing up because they were severely ill from that. Because it was red, they freaked out. I can tell you if it is something like that and it is blood and it's a GI bleeding, you would not have even been able to take the smell and the vomit. It's just a GI bleed. It's just you'll never forget that again. Okay, so we would easily say, hey, you can clean this up. But bottom line is check to see if blood is visible. Okay. Again, I talked about direct modes of transmission, how it can enter your body through mucous membranes of the eyes, nose, mouth, sexual conduct, contact, open sores, cuts, abrasions, you know, different things like that. You're at risk for several reasons. One, you're not using cut-proof gloves. Y'all work with cut-proof gloves in food industry? You work with very, very sharp knives, because which knife cuts you worse? Dull knife, right? We know that. That sharp knife is no match for the food service gloves. So there's potential that it's going to cut right through what you're wearing or students wear. Okay, and then we have to worry about, like, hopefully we catch it on as quick and stop the bleeding, what have you. If you're going to contaminate something, please contaminate one thing. Okay. If the person is bleeding and you're over that garbage can and there's blood already in it, hold that pressure right there until we get this thing wrapped up. Don't try going all over the place and in the bathroom, and now we got 2 more garbage cans, and we got a lavatory, we got, okay? Trust me, going there is not going to treat that person any better than holding them right there and doing what you're going to do, right? And get medical help if it's that bad, or get it wrapped up and get it to university or hurt the university help. But trying to move just spreads that potential all over the place. Now, there are 3 main controls that you've heard us talk to you about before. The one that I can stress the most importance on is universal precautions. You know what that is? Every person is positive. Okay? You treat every single person that has the potential with blood products as that person is positive. The same precautions you would take on whether I know, if you have it or not. Okay? That is a universal precaution. Okay? So you assume that they're infectious, okay, at all times. The second one is engineering controls. We can use available technology and devices to isolate or remove hazards. Mainly, like I said, unfortunately, there's only a couple in your industry. Good hand washing facilities. Okay. Potential for eye wash if there's a problem. Medical, you have self-sheathing needles and things of that nature. And if students are diabetic, they need to make sure that they're doing the right things in the restaurant, protect your custodians and everybody else. But for y'all, most engineering things are going to be in that proper hygiene and washing, things of that nature. Okay? Work practice controls is the third one. If there's an alteration in the manner in which the task can be performed, reduce the likelihood of an exposure. That is things like PPE, gloves, washing your hands, immediately removing gloves the right way, okay, decontaminating equipment, or labeling it contaminated until it gets clean. Those are work practice controls. I always remember, because I thought, man, this has been horrible. Some of you know Sam, my son. Sam was a culinary major here. And Sam was telling me he was working at the Crown Plaza in Baton Rouge, now of course this is years ago. And they hired a young helper that was special needs, but they do, that's a great thing to hire people to wash dishes and do whatever. And Sam said he turned and he looked for his knife that he had on the counter. And all of a sudden, the young person screamed and the water turned red. She had taken his knife and put it inside the sink that had the soap water and then reached in there and the knife had turned up. And I mean, they slid her down to the bone. Okay. These are things we have to practice. You don't do. You don't reach in in soapy water or do anything. To this day, in my own house, when we have knives or steak knives, before they're washed, they're put on the back of the sink. They do not go in the sink, okay, until we wash them. Those are things you need to make sure the students don't drop sharp instruments in water and then, what's in that sink, you know? That's how you'll get someone severely cut. We must make available PPE, okay? And that's employer's responsibility, all right? So that could be gloves. We really don't need eye shields or goggles or face masks and other things. That's more in the emergency response. If you have a person spurting blood, things of that nature, they have to watch that, okay? You cut an artery and it, so emergency responders, you know, hospitals, doctors, they're gonna suit. You see them in a gown, you see them in a face shield, that's what they're doing. Okay, they're protecting their eyes and so forth and so on. So, I tell you that because if you happen to have a person who is bleeding and blood is spurting, be careful, protect. I know you want to reach in there and get some sort of material on that wound and stop that bleeding right away. Be careful, okay? Yes, you have to do that. Don't be sticking your face right over where it's at. You're going to subject yourself to potential problems. We have containers that we would come in. You don't have any sharps containers here, right? Okay, that's more in our medical field. You've seen those. Those are the red containers that are out there. They're labeled properly because that is going to show you infectious material present. Okay, you don't reach in those, you don't grab in those. Red bags are properly marked, and then we send them off for it. If we have to clean a large blood, or you do, then we ask you to put that in a separate bag. If it's that entire garbage can, then we're gonna wrap that whole bag, and guess what? That entire bag is now infectious waste that has to go to be disposed of. Okay? It's another reason I ask you to try to keep it to one area, one bag. It's not very cheap, although I don't care about the price. Okay, but if you can contain it to one area, we sure would appreciate that. All right. Again, I'm going to go through. You've been through this. If it's not pertaining to your type of industry, I don't think I need to go through all labels, tags, bags, and what to do with it unless you want me to stand up here and do that. She's saying, no, get him out. Hand washing, proper hand washing is probably the easiest and most effective infection control measure. I mean, we say this for everything. You're seeing us say that for the current situation, right? Wash your hands, okay? Possible, use antibacterial type soap, okay? Avoid harsh abrasive soaps. Why? It abrades your skin and opens your skin up. We're not trying, you know, you're not a grease monkey working on a car out there that you got to scrub that grease off, right? Use a good antibacterial soap and take care of your hands. But, you know, don't cut it, all right? Now, how many we see that put the soap and they go right under the water? Do what you're taught. Soap on your hands, 15, 20 seconds, rubbing it, you know. I mean, they're teaching in schools. My little grandkids, I could hear them in the bathroom, you know, singing their ABCs. Going in there, washing their hands. When they get to the ABCs, they were taught you've had it long enough. We don't need to go singing ABCs around here, but understand, and you would think that, why is he saying that? Because I can assure you, I can go in there right now and count a lot of people that do not wash their hands at any time. You know it, you see it all the time. Yeah. If there is unexpected exposure, if any potential infectious material or blood splashes in your eyes or other mucous membranes, lips, mouth, nasal, middle ear, flush the area with running water for at least 20 minutes right away. What are we doing? We're mitigating any potential problem that you would have, all right? Again, gently treat any scab or any sore, anything of that nature. If you're working in an area where there's a reasonable likelihood of exposure, you do not eat, drink, smoke, apply cosmetics, lip balm, handle contact lenses, anything of this where you could have the route of entry being ingestion. Okay. Some precautions, general precautions, again, besides washing your hands immediately after contact. You know, sometimes you might not be able to avoid it, right? It's just, it happens. You become in contact. If that happens to you, you need to remove any protective clothing or gloves before touching the door handle. Okay? Do not grab any gloves you're wearing, working with a person, and go touch that door handle. It can live on that door handle for many, many hours and days. And then the next person comes who has a cut, a hangnail, anything, and grabs it, you could actually infect that person. So it's very important. Keep it together. Don't spread it. Okay? We would disinfect all solid surfaces. You have disinfectant here. Immediately disinfect solid surface that may have blood or potential infectious material. Always wear gloves when cleaning that. Okay? And be careful again of sharp objects if you're emptying your trash can. When I did a lot of the emergency response work prior to working at Nichols, we double gloved all the time. Okay? I'm not saying you have to do that here. It's a whole different ballgame. But why are they double gloving? First pair of gloves is contaminated. The second pair, they're still protecting their hands while they're going to do something or put another pair. That's the whole reason for double protection. Okay? Now, if you have to clean a small spill, as being trained, you can. Okay? You don't have to call my department for every spill and cut that's out there. If you need a serious biohazard cleanup, then yes, contact us. We'll either make sure you got it right or we'll send someone in to look at it.
Excuse me, what about after hours?
But you can clean, okay?
Right.
As long as you take the right precaution. Notify us though that you are doing this. And you have to be working on your own on a lot of stuff. I mean, look, one thing we need to do, we're training you because you're in here, right? But you're also teaching students who are getting ready to go out into the real world. Real world, they're not going to have a safety department to call. Okay, so show them what's right. But I can tell you this, that if you're going to use bleach, which is perfectly fine, best two y'all got, okay? 1 part bleach to 10 parts of water. Do not use pure bleach. Must go 1 to 10. Okay. I mentioned a little bit about viruses. Hep virus can survive outside the body for 7 days. It can survive. Okay. During that time, it can still cause infection if it enters into your bloodstream. All right. So it's important to clean and disinfect a site where any blood, other bodily fluids are present. Not wiping with a wet rag, disinfect. If any remnants, 7 days, that virus can still be alive. Okay. All right. Now, I said there was nothing for Hep C, but there is for Hep B. Anybody in here has not signed the Hep B vaccination statement? You've been through this class, you've signed it. Now, signing it does not mean you took a shot. It just means you were told that it is available. So if everybody's done that, we don't have to cover that part. I can cover and tell you though that if you ever sign, you did not want it, you have the right at any time to say, oh, no, I want it. Okay, now, the culinary department would be asked to pay University Health back for the series of shots, okay? That's okay. All right, nobody will tell you no. But you do have that right, so you can understand to decline it, accept it, or accept it any time in your career after you feel you want it. Okay. Now, if an exposure occurs, you must report all exposures to your supervisor and seek medical attention immediately. Okay? An exposure is, like I said, you have a large amount of blood that hits you, not cleaning with a glove, that's not an exposure, right? An accidental exposure to you, all right? You must report and document the exposure incident on the supervisor, okay? They're not around, do it yourself, including the route of exposure and the circumstance in which the exposure incident occurred. All right, you must document it. Identify the source of the individual, if possible. I can pretty much guarantee you in your line of work, you're going to know the source, unfortunately. If consent can be obtained, the source's individual blood will be tested. So if that person is cut real bad and they go and get treatment, they will get consent and ask, do you mind if your blood is tested? Because if you came in contact with it, we're going to know immediately whether that person was positive. Okay? And that sets the course of treatment for the rest of you. Flush splashes to the nose, eyes, and mouth with water immediately. Wash skin areas with soap and water. Notify our department if you had that exposure. Okay? Again, exposure. Not because you dealt with it, but if you were accidentally all over your skin, your arms, that's an exposure. And then post follow-up care will be provided by the university. These rules are in place for your protection and the protection of the students. I know y'all take it seriously. You understand your type of work, what you work with, and the hazards that can be associated with it. And this is standard practice that you know, I don't know if it's included, but this should be going out to students that leave out of here as part of some class that y'all teach somewhere. This is very important that it gets out. Any questions for me? No, went through, normally takes us almost an hour. We went through this quick, but you all hands at this. JP, gonna run out of here.
Yeah, I'm just in the middle of
Go ahead, and let y'all have questions for me, this or any other questions that I can answer right now, for this or any other activity going on, please ask me. Carolyn enjoys coming here to do this. She had something that she had to go take care of, and I appreciate the opportunity. I don't always get to see y'all, but I certainly appreciate everything that y'all do around here, and respect everything that y'all
Yeah,
do.
I think Paul's gonna have to sign that. This signing sheet, Paul.
Okay, no questions for me or COVID? I'm here for you. Okay, good.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, y'all. Do you want to leave that sheet to catch a few others that you filmed? That they can sign the sheet?
Can I email you once they viewed it? Like, or do you need it to be on
No,
that sheet?
I need them to actually sign it
Okay,
when they do it. So if
All right.
you keep that and then get it back to me after,